I just started to see I'm like, there's gotta be something else.
It was time for him to pursue the next phase in his life.
I want to help people on a larger scale, so how do you do that? And a good friend of mine who was a sports agent, he said, you need to have your own place.
Him and a friend of his, Danny, had put together, thought about this plan.
We were drawing diagrams and putting around ideas, and to the extent where we were looking at real estate, hey, we could build a big building and we'll put the field on the roof and all these crazy ideas, but we were actually trying to put the steps in to make it happen.
The concept of anatomy was put together by Chris.
I ended up signing a lease on what's now the first anatomy. And after I signed that lease and I started building it, obviously I started searching for the best people in the fitness industry. And Mark's name came up a few times through different people, but Danny Marto, a friend of both of ours, a mutual friend that was involved in the beginning helping put this together, set up the meeting with Mark and myself.
I thought it could have been a great fit, to just put it all together, to put Mark and Chris together.
Everything I was told about Chris from Danny was positive, and he was a worker, and he really wanted to do something special. And it's good to be surrounded by positive people who are like-minded. So we had a conversation, and you could tell that we had a lot of the same thoughts on what we wanted to do. Not only was the facility going to be special, but we wanted to create an amazing offering of service and community and create a special culture.
Chris came forward and said, hey, this is a great spot. They wanted to do something else, but I may be able to work something out with them. And then boom, then it started really coming together.
And I was thinking, man, this might be something I actually do. So at that point, I don't think I ever had a thought to be a business partner or be involved with other people because I wasn't a business-minded person.
Miami Beach is a tough place. It's very competitive and seasonal, and it's a tough place. I mean, 1 out of 10 businesses must fail.
It was a risk. Every time you go into business, it's a risk, and this isn't it's a unique thing. It's not like opening up a watch store or a cafe. There's a way to do it. How do you do this? And they created something that was outside the box. It's different than every other gym.
I think Mark was a little bit in his comfort zone at that time.
You have to be uncomfortable to grow. So Mark knows that. I know that. I know that with training with Mark. If I'm comfortable in what we're doing, I'm not getting anything out of the session, actually. I'm just maintaining, right? Well, we're not there to maintain. We're there to become better. And the same thing in life, same thing in relationships. It's those uncomfortable moments. They're the moments that you know that you need to have.
Great effort. Seriously, great effort.
Mark was a football player, and then Mark was a personal trainer. Mark wasn't a manager. He never built a business. He never hired and fired anybody. That wasn't his skill set. He never had 15 employees reporting to him with issues. How do you deal with these issues? There was no manual. There was no corporate, governance that he would call. There was no HR. There was no anything.
One of my close friends in life, a mentor, he would be someone that I would always bounce things off of. And I asked him his thoughts, and he said that, it was probably time to transition into something. And he really gave me some great advice. And the more we talked through things, it was becoming clear that we certainly wanted him involved because, not only is he a special person, but he's a very savvy businessman.
It took a little persuasiveness, and I know Mark at that time was thinking about doing his own concept as well. I brought him by the space. He fell in love with the space. And, the rest is history.
Then I just saw him putting those pieces together while he was still grinding away all these hours and all these sessions in Equinox for years and years and years. And it was really cool to see that whole thing come together.
The talk started to come out about anatomy. And that was creating a lot of friction, a lot of issues there, because, you know, in the company there is a non-compete, and so it created a lot of stress for Mark. But on top of that, he loved that place. He had been there a decade. That was his home, you know. He worked out there in the mornings. He was the only guy with the key, you know, and he built a relationship with the entire community there.
You could see it's weighing on him.
He's so on that end where I feel like he has to be 100% or nothing. And it's definitely challenging. He would be gone from 3 a.m. until 7 p.m. And it was insane. The hours were like crazy, and not sleeping. For many, many years, what people don't know is that Mark only slept for 4 hours a night for many years. And I was like, this is not good for your health. You're promoting health and wellness, and I love you, but like, you can't do this to yourself. And I would just see him like push through the exhaustion.
And so he decided right then and there, he's like, I'm just gonna cut ties. And he put himself in a tough spot, because he could have easily just continued training and then transitioned over. But instead, he cut his business early. Anatomy hadn't even been finished yet, and he had to started bouncing around doing private training, which is difficult.
It took an amazing amount of maturity and wisdom, considering he hadn't actually done that before. You know, he's shifting into something else.